The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning, 14 minutes and 20 seconds worth of sports talk to get you through your daily commute. Hot takes, recaps, best bets, and a little humor to get your day going in the right direction. Sit back, grab your coffee, and let's get into it. All right, 14:20 in the morning, surprise edition of 14:20 in the morning, coming at you on this Sunday morning, the first day, daylight savings or whatever it's called. The clock sprung ahead today. That's always a pain in the old derriere. But anyways, we're coming at you at 14:20 in the morning, live on Facebook, live on YouTube, the whole bit. But anyways, the guys from the H-Town Rundown are supposed to be our guests for the Major League Baseball tour. They had a little emergency. The boy had to go to the emergency room running a bit of a fever, so he got stuck at the hospital this morning. So he had to back out. So we'll get that going again. My people will get a hold of his people. We'll get something going later on next week to make sure we get that part of our Major League Baseball tour down and dirty and getting going. But thank you for making us a part of your morning. Anyways, it's greatly appreciated for everybody who listens and watches our show on a daily basis. Lots going on. So I thought I'd throw something together, get here on the airwaves no matter what, trying to get the entertainment out to the masses. Earlier on this week, we had some situations throughout the sports world where officials are coming under fire once again, as they are every year in, year out. And a lot of times it's a he said, she said situation. There's a lot of bickering back and forth that happens on the court, on the field, on the ice, whatever it may be, between players and coaches and officials, referees, umpires, whatever it may be. This week, there was a couple situations that I want to touch on briefly here. There was one in the Southwest Conference of college baseball that happened. I don't know if anybody saw this. It was yesterday. The game was on Friday night, I believe. But of course, college baseball doesn't get a huge bunch of takedown here. But Mississippi Valley State versus New Orleans Community College or whatever it may be. There was a pitch in a 7-3 game in the ninth inning that the batter, he didn't think it was a strike at all. If you're watching on YouTube, here it is. It was a questionable call, low and outside. The batter vehemently opposed to the call, and he didn't like it. He pointed in the dirt, which could be a automatic ejection at that point. In the ninth inning, you want to let it go. The next pitch definitely wasn't a strike. He called the umpire, what was his name, Reggie Dunmore. He called it a strike and started walking off the field right off the bat. He didn't talk to the players or anything. The opposing catcher stopped the player from arguing anymore because it wasn't worth the trouble to the umpire to the player to start giving the umpire shit, because that's all it's going to get him is suspended. So the catcher, he did the batter a favor there, getting him out of trouble, and it was a terrible call at the end of a game. And the guy, like I said, the guy should have just thrown him out of the game. But then you have an ejection report afterwards, so he just made a really bad call to end the game. The 7-3 game, the team was probably going to, like, the outcome of the game probably wasn't going to be determined because of that, but you just never know in the game of baseball, because a hit's a hit, and all of a sudden 4 hits are strung together, and it's a lot different. It's not like it's a 4-run lead in basketball or in a 4-goal lead in hockey or something like that. So it can be a lot different than that situation where the player, the game's not over till it's over in baseball, and the umpire made a terrible call, and then he was subsequently suspended yesterday, so he's out for God knows how long. He won't be umpiring the rest of the season probably, and the like, which is probably the right situation to do. But it's really easy for these teams in the higher conference, in these baseball conferences, to suspend an umpire because there's no union or anything else, and if the guy's not doing his job properly, he's told to go home. I think that's 100% fair. Let's go back to the NBA last week, where another official, Ben Taylor, I believe his name is. He's known around the league as not being the best official. He's a bit of a red ass. He rules with an iron fist out there. He doesn't do the greatest of jobs, from what I've been told and what I've been reading this week. And I read about officials all the time because, as you know, if you don't know, I umpire amateur baseball, right? So I'm a bit of an official hugger when it comes down to it. So you just wonder, these guys that it's Ben Taylor. He gave Fred VanVleet his 8th technical foul of the year. 4 have been from this Taylor guy. So 8 seems a bit high for technical fouls. I don't follow basketball a whole bunch, but 8 tees seems like, you get teed up 8 times a year, that seems like a lot. But if one guy's giving you 4, there's a bit of bad blood between this Taylor and Freddie VanVleet. After the game, Van Vliet, he voiced his displeasure in the officiating, used a few expletives over the air and everything else. And to a man throughout the sports media world, a lot of people are saying that's the right thing for Van Vliet to do, to say something about this guy, because he's not a very good official and he makes mistakes on a consistent basis. So if maybe that's the thing, if these guys get called out because the union is going to back the guy, they aren't going to get rid of him. You go back to the Joe West days, how West was making bad calls, Angel Hernandez, and so on and so forth with those guys in the big leagues, because they are protected by the union. Nothing can really be done. And that's the difference between amateur baseball and amateur sport compared to professional. These guys are protected and they can do whatever they want. And they're not really disciplined at all. It's one of those things, right? So it's a pretty slippery slope that they get these players get themselves into by voicing their displeasure towards officials, because the brotherhood that officials have, whether it be hockey, baseball, football, basketball, and the like, there is a definite brotherhood between officials, and they talk and they say, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, and then they'll always back the official. I shouldn't say always. 95% of the time they'll back the official and back up the brotherhood or sisterhood, whatever it may be. And then these guys just have carte blanche to do whatever they want, and nothing's ever done or said. The Raptors probably aren't going anywhere this year. They're not winning a championship. Let's not kid ourselves. But the thing is Van Vliet didn't do himself or the Raptors any favors for the remainder of this season and maybe into next season. And just spouting off, if you're asked a question we always say that the athletes should give answers when asked questions in post game interviews, and we like them to be a bit spicy and the like. We like to hear what athletes actually think, and when they do say what they actually think, sometimes we don't agree with it, and we say, man, maybe he shouldn't have said that, but he came out and he said it, and he said the guy was horseshit, and that was basically a roundabout sort of way. He had a few other things he said too about how the season's been going, how different games and the like with this Ben Taylor guy, and I think it's a good thing that they are coming out and saying it. Finding a guy $30,000 is like I read it was 1/7 of 1% of his $20 million or $21 million salary. It's like finding a guy $140 when he makes $100,000 a year. Like, what's the point of finding these guys? It's probably the max that they can be fined under the CBA and everything else, but it's kind of ridiculous. Give that money to kids or something. I don't know, or give it to me. Everybody could use an extra $30,000. There's no getting around that. But it's just funny the way that these guys get away with this, and then these officials, they do whatever they want. They're never held accountable. Yeah, they might get yelled at a little bit when the game's over. The game's over. I really believe that sometimes these guys need to be told a little bit. Maybe have a sit down and hit these officials in the wallet. If they're terrible, make sure that they have to go under some kind of a microscope, some sort of training, something after the fact that says, hey, you're not doing your job, you're not getting these. If they don't get playoff games, they don't care. It's a bonus. Yeah, you'd rather work the World Series, obviously, and you'd rather work the playoffs because it's a badge of honor, but you're getting your salary regardless, and you get to go home. So working the playoffs, it'd be nice, obviously, but if you don't end up doing it, it doesn't much matter. It's getting your job the next year or the next week and everything else. And like I said, these amateur guys, they get told to go home. That guy made 2 bad calls. He's done. See you later. You're not officiating anymore, and that might hurt this guy a lot more, because he's probably doing it to supplement his income, put a few extra bucks in his pocket, has a day job guaranteed. So it's tough when these guys get suspended for making terrible call, and they were terrible calls. They were up on our YouTube. If you watch it a little later on, I have it up there. We played it before, but you watch these guys, and it's tough. And he made a mistake. He made a bad call, and he got told to go home. And it was a vendetta, and he didn't handle it right, and that umpire didn't handle it right, and he got told that's it. Whereas these professional guys, they make bad call after bad call. Major league guys, now the calls are getting overturned with video replay. It doesn't matter, because they're going, well, I screwed that up. And they seem to be able to make more wrong calls because there is video replay. So there's less and less repercussions for these guys making bad calls. It doesn't hurt them at all. It doesn't hurt these guys that when they make a bad call that, yeah, see you later, done deal. Like it's ridiculous. So when Van Vliet calls these guys out, and these other players call these officials out, it doesn't. I think it's a good thing, because the league isn't doing anything to these officials and saying, hey, you're shitty. Like, but the players say something, and now the players are going to have a target on their back for future games, because now you have the other officials are going to back their brotherhood of officials, and on it goes, right? So it's a real tough look, and everybody's been hard on an official a time or two, and it's hard not to get that way. You shouldn't get that way, especially in younger ages. I get in professional ranks. These guys, they're getting paid a lot of money, and and a lot at stake on a daily basis. So getting upset with an official, you got to have a bit of a bit more thick. You got to have thicker skin, I guess, to take this stuff. It should be a screw you, and that's it. Giving a guy a technical and everything else, what's the point? Throwing a guy out, what's the point? You're just going to do it again anyways. It doesn't make like a 2-minute minor. Who cares? Finding Fred VanVleet 30 grand when he makes 21 million a year. What's he care? It's ridiculous. It's the leagues that have to start looking at these officials and reprimanding them for bad calls and for being red asses and for being and just being on and on, just being bad at their jobs. Players can't be bad for that long. They're out of the league. Like if a fourth line winger ain't doing his job, he's going to find himself down in Tallahassee next week playing there, and he's out of the National Hockey League. These officials in these professional sports, they got carte blanche to do whatever they want and say whatever they want because they have a union that backs them. And it's not very often these guys get reprimanded. Like I said, maybe they don't get a playoff game, but that's it. That's all they don't get is a playoff game. And what's the big deal, right? They still get their salary and everything else. So it's a really slippery slope what happens in the in the world of sports and with officials, because it can be really tough on these guys. But I don't know. There's my rant for the day. If you like it, if you agree with or disagree, let me know on our Facebook account, Twitter account, wherever it is you pay attention to my yap all the time, because we're doing pretty good. Anyways, on this day, Jesus, on this day 3 years ago, 2020, the National Hockey League, it shut down for what we thought was going to be 2 weeks. And then it was another 2 weeks and another 2 weeks. It was on this day. Remember, like it seemed like it was such a long time ago, but it was only 3 years ago when the way this is all just stretched out and everything else. We didn't know what was ahead of us. The NCAA actually on this day 3 years ago as well, they canceled the NCAA basketball tournament, which is a huge moneymaker for the NCAA and everything else. But it was on this day that we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, and who knows what's going to happen. But the COVID situation shut everything down for a really long time. We didn't know what to expect. Agree or disagree with how it was handled. There were some things that were handled a little bit differently, and but it was a work in progress. And who knows what could have happened if we didn't shut it down? Who knows what did happen because we did shut it down? I don't know. Nobody will ever know. But they made a choice, and the world shut down this day. And it all really came to a head on. I think it was St. Patrick's Day when we said that's no more for bars and restaurants and the like, and it was mayhem. We thought it was going to be 2 weeks, but it was on this day, three long years ago, where it all started, and the world went to what's the proper terminology? Hell in a handbasket. I think that's the proper terminology for that. But it was a tough situation for a lot of people over that time. We didn't know what was to expect, and it was this day 3 years ago where it all kind of started to come into a head, and then it all went kabloom, and and then we didn't know what to do and how to handle it and everything else, and we still don't know the divide that it caused right across this country. Whether you believe it or don't believe it, it caused a divide with people that we will never fully understand. And it's like I said, it was an odd situation. There's no getting around that. Was it handled correctly in all facets? No. Was it handled correctly in some facets? Yes. But we'll never know. We'll never know what would have happened if there wasn't a shutdown. We don't know. Like if there was a shutdown and people would have actually followed it, maybe it wouldn't have been so long. We don't know. We will never know what will happen, because hindsight's 2020 and the like, and it's just one of those crazy situations that we just we lived through it. We got through it because it was a different world, a different situation that got us into that little spot we got ourselves in. Anyways, what do we got here? Happy birthday to Darryl Strawberry, the Straw Man, born on this day in 1962 in Los Angeles, California. Strawberry, first overall pick by the Mets in 1980 out of Crenshaw High School. National League Rookie of the Year in 83. Three-time World Series champion, one with the Mets, two with the Yankees. I'll always consider him a Met, not a Yankee. One of the most effortless swings in baseball history, in my opinion. Hell of a player. Remember the 30-30 club. 17 big league seasons, Mets, Yanks, Dodgers, and the Giants. I forgot he played for the Giants until I saw this research earlier on today. 335 home runs, 1,000 RBIs, batting average of 259 in his career, and a member of the vaunted Mets Baseball Hall of Fame. That's not something you hear very often. The Mets Hall of Fame. Hell of a player. He ran into some problems with the Mets, with some cocaine problems and everything else, but he's found his way in life now, and he's doing really well. So happy birthday once again to Darryl Strawberry, Mets Hall of Famer. Must be a pretty small building to have the Mets Hall of Fame. One of those funny things, but it's just no. He was a hell of a player. I really enjoyed watching Darryl Strawberry over the years. He was a great player. Effortless swing, like I said, and one of the best power hitters of all time. Anyways, that's 14:20 in the morning, brought to you by Manscaped and Manscaped.com. I forgot to do that begin. You guys know it's on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, whatever it is. But Manscaped.com. Use promo code 1420. Scaped at manscaped.com today for 20% off and free shipping. Thank you guys for listening. Like every day that our numbers are going up and up. We greatly appreciate it. We're almost at the 50,000 mark total all time, which is a pretty big mark. We're almost at 10,000 just this year alone already, when it's only March the 7th, I think it is. It took us over 100 shows to get to the 10,000 mark before. So things are going really well here at 1420 World Headquarters. Thank you guys for listening to the show. We greatly appreciate it. The baseball tour continues again this week. Got a few more interviews lined up later on today, so we'll get those posted and up and Adam, for you guys to enjoy those. I know people have been clamoring for those. The people who've been on them, they've really enjoyed being on the one. Some of my the guys in the Pesky Report earlier on this week, if you haven't listened to that one, the Boston Red Sox one, it was a fantastic interview with those guys. So make sure you guys give those guys a listen, give our show a listen, and talk to people about our show, because that's how it spreads the good word of the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. Greatly appreciate it for all the support you're giving. Make sure you check out our webpage. Got a bunch of swag out there for you, some merchandise that we have, so check out our website. I'll put it up in the show notes. But anyways, thank you very much for listening to 1420. Like I said, we had to scramble to get a show out today because with the H-Town rundown, they had a little situation where they had to reschedule, but we got this one out there for you guys. Hope you enjoy the show. Listen to a few more today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch all those shows all day long, and support our sponsors, because they support us and we can continue to do this. Anyways, have a great day, everybody, and remember, it doesn't matter where you are, it's who you're with. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow morning.